The consumer wearable hardware market is entering a maturation cycle. With margin compression accelerating, manufacturers are identifying recurring post-sale revenue channels for their devices. The target for this hardware data is institutional finance, specifically healthcare and carbon markets. However, consumer fitness data is structurally excluded from these systems because it relies on user attestation. It is vulnerable to device spoofing, credential sharing, and passive fraud. This barrier is the Actuarial Trust Gap. It represents the legal and financial inability of employers, insurers, and carbon registries to rely on self-reported physical activity data for reserve estimation or compliance reporting. The engineering solution designed to bridge this gap is the VIDAT platform, governed by U.S. Patent 11,998,801b2. VIDAT operates as a sequential 5-layer control stack. It processes raw OEM sensor telemetry through verification, inspection, demonstration, analysis, and testing, converting an unverified activity log into an immutable, certified evidence chain. Bridging this trust gap provides access to institutional compliance budgets. Hardware manufacturers can route their existing data into enterprise systems, making a depreciating fitness tracker an actively monetized financial instrument. This data routing operates on a reverse royalty commercial model. Instead of paying licensing fees, OEMs receive a recurring monthly payment for granting the VIDAT API access to their device's raw, unprocessed sensor data. This is a Sankey diagram showing the baseline financial flow. Institutions like employers and carbon registries pay the platform operator, the Dandy Horse, a foundational rate of $17 per employee per month to access the verified behavioral data. Under the Tier 2 preferred economics, an OEM providing a fleet of between 100,000 and 249,000 active devices captures a 10% share of that monthly fee. That equates to $1.70 per device per month. If a manufacturer deploys 100,000 active devices, that $1.70 yield produces an annual recurring revenue of $2.04 million in profit, requiring no incremental manufacturing or marketing expenditure. The platform operator retains the remaining $15.30 per user, which across that same deployment size yields an annual recurring revenue of $18.36 million. A behavioral condition is required to trigger this revenue. A device is only classified as active if the attached user records a minimum of 16 verified commute sessions within a trailing 30-day period. This $17 valuation exists because the telemetry satisfies strict actuarial standards of practice. ASOPs are the binding professional frameworks that govern actuarial modeling and reserve estimation. Actuarial compliance, rather than consumer-facing app features, is what dictates the premium value of the data. This schematic shows the physical baseline required to execute the protocol. The platform utilizes existing off-the-shelf smartwatches equipped with 3 specific components: an NFC controller, a GPS module, and a raw 3-axis accelerometer. The pre-ride sequence begins with an initialization step called the financial sync. The rider taps their smartwatch to their smartphone, cryptographically linking the upcoming physical activity to a regulated financial account at a participating credit union. This financial tethering ensures the identity of the rider is verified against a regulated banking system. It serves as the prerequisite for institutional payapps, such as credit union loan offsets or healthcare premium reductions. Once financially linked, the user executes a hardware check-in sequence. The rider uses their smartwatch to physically read specific NFC tags that are permanently affixed to their bicycle frame and safety helmet. Mandating this multi-tag sequence eliminates equipment fraud. A user cannot log a qualifying session using borrowed credentials or static photographs. The registered hardware must be physically present. By confirming the registered user is physically proximate to the registered safety equipment and vehicle, this hardware layer verification strictly satisfies Actuarial Standard of Practice number 56. It removes all reliance on user honesty before the commute even begins.
Once the ride is initiated, the system enters the demonstration phase. To validate the session, the platform requires direct API access to the device's raw telemetry, bypassing consumer-side smoothing algorithms like Apple Health or Google Fit. This split-screen graph maps the device's raw 3-axis accelerometer stream. Pulling unfiltered data is necessary to distinguish active human pedaling from passive motorized transport. Server-side algorithms analyze the input for a specific signature, oscillating between 0.75 and 0.167 Hz. This confirms the organic, erratic wave pattern of a human riding a bicycle, rather than the smooth, consistent motion of a motor vehicle. This specific raw accelerometer analysis defeats passive fraud. If a user sits on a city bus holding a GPS-active device to fake a commute route, the accelerometer will register the flat motion signature, and the system flags the session. To counter adversarial attacks, the system utilizes randomized redemonstration. It injects mid-session prompts requiring immediate tag scans, preventing malicious actors from replaying historical ride data to generate artificial credits. Combining real-time spatial movement with continuous raw motion signatures proves sustained human effort. It elevates the telemetry beyond a simple GPS track, which can be spoofed, into a rigorous proof of presence. The physical evidence chain concludes the moment the rider reaches the corporate destination. The system requires the user to interact with a verified destination node, or VDN. A VDN is a secure, employer-sanctioned endpoint, typically a physical pedestal or secure bike infrastructure located at the workplace. The rider performs one final tap of their smartwatch against the employer's NFC pedestal. This action logs the exact time and location of their arrival, appending a final cryptographic stamp to the session data. This timestamp closes the evidentiary loop. By bookending the commute with verified physical interactions, the session is upgraded to a full credibility classification, providing the statistical reliability required for downstream actuarial modeling. The data now moves from the physical hardware to the server-side analysis phase. Here, the verified telemetry is mathematically transformed into quantifiable institutional outputs. This formula calculates exact avoided emissions per trip, multiplying verified miles by the difference between motor vehicle and cycling emissions. The vehicle CO2 variable avoids fleet averages, instead pulling the specific VIN via DMV integration, documenting exact emissions had that user driven. The verified GPS distance, route geometry, and NFC timestamps are fed directly into the spaceline to produce a defensible unit of environmental value, the Bicycle Commuter Carbon Avoidance Credit, or BCCAC. Concurrently, the platform aggregates the user's commute frequency and time consistency. This creates a behavioral reliability dataset utilized for HRRaaS, Healthcare Reserve Release as a Service, allowing self-insured employers to safely draw down medical reserves. These outputs achieve financial-grade rigor because no unverified inputs or estimates enter the computation layer. Every variable is tied to physical proof. Before any dataset is issued, it must pass through the final architectural layer, testing. This operates as an institutional assurance gate prior to data certification. The system runs automated redundancy cross-checks. GPS logs are stress-tested against the physical tag events and known Department of Transportation infrastructure to flag impossible speeds or temporal anomalies. The platform enforces a zero-tolerance exception protocol. A discrepancy or failure at any prior verification layer automatically disqualifies the entire dataset from certification. The output of the VIDAT stack is a timestamped, immutable audit trail. The raw data streams from the smartwatch are packaged into an evidentiary record designed explicitly to withstand formal actuarial review. This continuous, automated evidence chain allows corporations to meet mandatory reporting obligations, such as California's SB 253 Scope 3 disclosures, using mathematically defensible data. Device manufacturers do not need to build their own compliance engines to access this market. By granting secure API access to their existing sensors, depreciating consumer hardware functions as a profitable node within an enterprise compliance network.